We're broadcasting live from Banjul. This is the news coming to you straight from the Gambia radio and television services, also coming up. President Barrow set to travel to the Republic of Senegal tomorrow on a day's official visit. Deputies at the National Assembly today considered the Public Service Pensions Bill and the Information and Communication Amendment Bill, respectively. Expanding Quranic education, Madarasatu Babulun Kante in Jara Soma graduates its first batch of Islamic students since inception in 2017. And in sports, former Arsenal striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has scored a hat-trick for Barcelona against Valencia, becoming the first player this century to fire a treble in La Liga. And in the internationals, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed inaugurates the multi-billion-dollar electricity production dam on the Blue Nile. These and many other stories coming ahead. I am Fatu Janimbai. Well, many thanks for joining GRTS News, and we begin this edition of the newscast with legislative matters where deputies at the National Assembly today considered the Public Service Pensions Bill and the Information and Communication Amendment Bill presented by the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, and the Information Minister, Ibrahim Silla, respectively. Meanwhile, the Women Constitution Amendment Bill was moved by the Honorable Member for Banjul South, Fatima Tanjari, failed to proceed due to lack of a quorum to sit over it for the second time since the start of the first ordinary session of the 2022 legislative year. Let's listen from the National Assembly Member for Busumbala, Honorable Sekou Jaju.
Previous minutes of the previous meeting, we have the voting of the Women Constitutional Amendment Bill that was discussed last week. But because of the threshold, we could not, so they refer it today. That was to be the first one. Then we have another bill, that is the Public Pension Amendment Bill and the Information Communication Amendment Bill. These are the three things we need to discuss today. But the first one, the Constitutional Amendment Bill, which talks about the women inclusion in the National Assembly, was only left with the voting. Why was it left with the voting? Because it's a constitutional amendment. It's not a mere bill. The 1997 Constitution says any amendment from the Constitution should have a threshold of about 3/3 majority. That means 75% of the members should be present for the voting to happen. So that's why last week when we debated, we came to realize that the members were less than the amount of threshold that was needed. So the Speaker referred to today. So today too, unfortunately, it happens because we need about 42 members to be present for the voting to take place. So unfortunately, we could not have 42 at a time. And then everything has time, so Speaker used her discretion. So that means the bill is naturally dead. It cannot go. But it's unfortunate on our side because we also want to be part of the history to make an amendment like this to happen in our time. But you know, Parliament have procedures and we go up according to the law of the country. So the Constitution says we need to have about 42 members to be present for it to happen. And then unfortunately we're going to have 42. So that's why the bill, for that bill, Constitutional Amendment Bill, that was brought by my colleague, Honorable Fatima Njai, is been rejected. It's dead. It cannot come till next Parliament. So the Public Pension Bill, that one is done. We refer it to Thursday for the third reading because we've done the consideration. Now today was the third for it to be, but the Speaker referred for it to be done on Thursday. The Information Communication Bill, we've done that one. We've considered it. For the amendment that the Minister wants, whether the committee and the report of the committee, which I am part of that committee, what we agreed on, whether the chambers will agree. So thank God the chambers agree. So the consideration is done, and then the third reading, which will be the final one for the bill to be sent to the President, will be on Thursday. So precisely, this is our job today. Because of the procedure, we close today. But you know, the whole Assembly is sad because we wanted to be part of the history, so that the Constitutional Amendment Bill can happen in our presence. But you know, everything is in the control of God, and the parliamentary procedure doesn't allow it to go.
Honorable Sekuba Jaju there, the National Assembly member for Busum Bala, breaking, of course, down the day's activity there for GRTS's Ibrahim Jal. We now shift attention to a press release from the Office of the President, which reads, "The Office of the President hereby informs the public that His Excellency Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, will travel to the Republic of Senegal on a day's official visit. The President and delegation will depart Banjul International Airport on Tuesday, 22nd February 2022. The release concludes. And now, Her Excellency, the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Touré, today received the outgoing World Bank Senior Social Protection Specialist and Task Team Leader, Ms. Penny Williams, and her successor, Christabel Desi. In her office at the State House in Banjul, Her Excellency, Dr. Touré, thanked the World Bank teams for putting the Gambian agenda on their priority and supporting the creation and optimal capacity building of the National Social Protection Secretariat. She also appreciates the bank's efforts in helping alleviating poverty across the various districts of the Gambia and urged them to keep supporting the country's poor through the NAFA program being implemented by the National Nutrition Agency and partners. As part of Ms. Penny Williams' achievements is the $31 million project of the Safety Net program, currently benefiting 83,000 households in 30 districts of the Gambia. And now, the German police support team from Baden-Württemberg today handed over vehicles and riot equipment to the command of the Gambia Police Force. The delegation also inaugurated a new car park held at the Police Intervention Unit headquarters in Kanifing. And as Usman Balde reports, the event was witnessed by the Police High Command.
The partnership between the Ministry of Interior and the German police support team in the Gambia started in 2018, and since then several projects have been implemented aimed at promoting the security and safety in the country. Speaking at the inauguration of a new car park at Police Intervention Unit in Kanifing, the State Police Director at Baden-Württemberg, Mr. Martin, explained that his office and the Gambia Police Force has trained 800 police officers in different aspects to better their operations.
It's a kind of role model of the cooperation and training between the police of the Gambia and Germany. The mentioned example showed us that we are on the right way. In that context, our trainer teams trained roughly 800 police officers since the project's inception in 2018. For example, in the fields of public order management, traffic police, crime scene management, criminal investigation, and sexual and gender-based violence. Until this day, we have invested over $96 million in our project. A big part of this amount is well spent on equipment for our colleagues in the Gambia.
Deputizing the Inspector General of Police, Mamadou Sow, the Deputy Inspector of Police, and Jibril Ngor Seka, also representing the Minister of Interior. Both described the donation as timely, saying their officials would rightfully use their donation timely.
There is no coincidence here why this particular German team is so ferociously and tirelessly supporting the Gambia Police to ensure that we become a vibrant, sophisticated, effective service delivery system, because we're all aware that our noble institution is tasked to oversee the continuation of society. So when we fail, society fails. Our responsibility is to uphold the pillars of society, to ensure the fabrics of society, the norms and values of societies are passed from one generation to the next in order to usher in a healthy, a wealthy, a vibrant society that everyone is a member. And we have to put this at the back of our mind, that this is a social state of which the life of the 9th and 10th of the citizen should not be a suicidal struggle, but an essence where everybody is a member.
The donated equipments will greatly enhance the operational capacity of Gambia Police Force in the area of public order management and protection of gallant officers in the line of their duty. We are profoundly grateful to the federal German government for their continued support during these past years of very challenging transition period. It is our hope that this partnership will continue to grow from strength to strength for the mutual benefit of our two countries.
Mr. Martin used the opportunity to highlight the importance of security in maintaining peace and stability in the country.
Our new work as policemen and women is extremely important for the society and the democracy. More than any other agency, the police represent the state and society and enforce the laws of the state. They also guarantee citizens their rights to show them you can trust in the work of the police.
The forum was concluded by an inspection of inaugurated facility and donated security items. Usman Bale, GRT's News.
We now shift attention to the West Coast region, where the town's Tailoring Association received 20 sewing machines on a revolving loan scheme payable within a period of 6 months. The industrial sewing machines, financed by Reliance Financial Services, are meant for members looking to expand their investments. The credit partnership seeks to support beneficiaries in a bid to boost the town's dressmaking industry.
The association was formed in 2009 with a purpose to bring in together professional tailors residing in the expansive town under a single network, building unity among professionals in the massive dressmaking industry. Coming together has brought more growth for these tailors, with an organization geared towards empowering members through financial social changes. Isa Trawale, the organization Secretary General, is leading a focused development efforts in Lamen's tailoring industry. He outlined the delivery of machines to members as vital project helping to boost dressmaking in Lamen.
It will develop it socially and economically because it will increase tailoring work skills and income because you have additional machine. It will increase your work and it will within less time because if you have a efficient machine, it will make your work faster than which is not efficient. So definitely it's going to help us a lot. And others who are behind, it will show them that definitely this association is moving forward. So therefore they will come forward as well to join this association.
The Honorable Father of the association and top advisor, Alhaji Yusufa Gomez, believes access to industrial sewing machines will significantly expand the association work and call on other private sectors to empower such associations working to improve the tailoring industry.
The private sector to look at this type of trades and really support them. The Financial Reliance Services has done their bit. And thank you very much for coming to the request of the Tailoring Association here in partnership with them to give them this loan so that other members of the association can benefit. I would also appeal to other financial institutions, NGOs, government institutions to support this Tailoring Association to reach, to achieve their objectives.
The industrial sewing machines are part of a scheme undertaken with Reliance Financial Services, which is partnering with Performing Sectors Initiative to boost employment and income via smart time, short-time loans.
It is a loan that we give to the Lamen Tailors Association, and it is a very cheap loan for that matter. We put them together, organize them, and then form the association, and we started with them like we did for the women. It has been very successful. with the women, and we hope that this is also going to be a very successful one based on our experience in these types of activities.
The sewing machines will significantly empower youth in the growing tailoring industry, where access to machinery consistently challenges young tailors looking to break into the dynamic dressmaking sector. Usman Balde, GRTS News.
Now, Regional Development Advocacy Group, TOSTAN, has staged one of the biggest dialogue seminars on rural programs initiated across the Central River region. The Technical Advisory Committee Review Forum was earmarked to evaluate and share information on the implementation of the organization's projects in a region it continued to make its mark for more than a decade. Modelamin Sane tells us more.
First time this year, TOSTAN has gathered members of the Technical Advisory Committee in the Central River region to jointly review their activities over the years. The important review and information sharing session featured discussions on key issues as TOSTAN moves to implement its project plans in over 60 communities in the Central River region. Discussions here started with TOSTAN field officers who stood up to deliver insight of the session's work within the region since it started implementing programs in 2020, as well outlined project plans to be implemented.
How the community empowerment program is able to empower the communities gradually, which is a gradual process, but then how communities also start to have a better understanding of the fact that they are also part of development, and development could start from the grassroots. This is what the government needs. The development approach have to be shifted to be bottom-up approach. So that cannot be achieved if the people don't understand the basic issues around development, and most importantly their own involvement. To decide what is good for their community so that they can have ownership and sustainability.
The crucial gathering for regional head of institutions reviewed TOSTAN's engagements in the region and forwarded recommendations for the future.
Strategic objectives of the NDP and the work we are doing, they are very much aligned. But then at the end of the day, TAC members are singularly important because the government and the people are here to stay. NGOs, our projects have a timeline. At the end of the day, one day we will go and expand and scale our program to other communities in this region or other regions of the Gambia. But the knowledge and skills that TOSTAN is able to impact on the people will remain. So both TAC members and local authorities need to have this understanding for the purpose of sustainability and continuity.
Let's concentrate on our performance. Let's concentrate on our works and our duties and responsibilities we owe to the state. We owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our family, our children, and we owe it to generations yet unborn. It will be a sin on all of us to neglect our responsibilities. Brothers, we have a lot at stake. I thank TOSTAN once again. They are definitely in no way relenting in what they are supposed to do for us to achieve what we really desire.
At the end of the forum, TOSTAN and these relevant partners will be putting together strategic ideas for implementation through the Community Empowerment Program targeting 60 communities in the region. Mudlamin Sane reporting for GRTS News from the Central River region.
And in the Lower River region, Madarasatu Babulun Kante in Jara Soma over the weekend held its first graduation ceremony since its inception in 2017. The ceremony, attended by dignitaries and Islamic scholars from across the country, witnessed the graduation of 13 students who memorized the Holy Quran. Alajimbai tells us more.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Perhaps one of the most difficult but the most important task for the believers of the Islamic faith is to memorize the Holy Quran, a feat achieved by these 13 young men and women within a period of 5 years and some even shorter. 13 students at Madarasatu Babulun Kante in Soma were over the weekend certified by the school for completing their Quranic memorization course at the center.
ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين وآتى المال على حبه.
Speaking at the ceremony, the guest speaker, Sheikh Abdul Kabir Samura, a renowned Islamic scholar, spoke on the importance of learning the Quran and propagating the Islamic faith. The Sheikh advised people to be God-fearing and seek for religious knowledge, and as well support Quranic memorization centers across the country and beyond. The founder of the school, Sheikh Mustafa Kante, described the graduation of the 13 students as the biggest stride registered by the school so far. He thanked the parents, children, and other stakeholders for supporting the center. Kante also highlighted lack of good and adequate classes, as well as furniture, amongst other challenges faced by the school. They only have 3 substandard classes, which are also used as accommodation for students staying at the center. The classes have neither furniture nor adequate electricity. Students at the center sit on mats during lessons. Kante appealed for support from government, NGOs, and philanthropists to promote and strengthen the memorization of the Quran at the center. Several other speakers, including the representative of the school management committee, Mustafa Sise, assured their support to the development of the center. The climax of the event was the recitation of some verses of the Holy Quran by each member of the graduating class.
ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب وقرآن مبين ربما يود الذين كفروا لو كانوا مسلمين وما لهم ألا يعذبهم الله وهم يصدون عن المسجد الحرام.
The historic event was attended by parents and loved ones, as well as Islamic scholars from various parts of the country. Alhaji Mbaye, GRTS News.
Well, time now to take our first break. When we return, sports news is next. To stay with us. Welcome back to GRTS News. And in sports, the former Arsenal striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has scored a hat-trick for Barcelona against Valencia at the weekend. Aubameyang becomes the first player this century to fire a treble in La Liga, the Premier League, the Bundesliga, and the French Ligue 1. It was the first hat-trick claimed by a Barcelona player since Lionel Messi in February 2020. The Gabon striker's hat-trick helped Barca to a 4-1 away triumph at Valencia. And from sports, we'll take a second break. When we return, we'll take a look at the international stories. To stay with us. Welcome back. And in the internationals, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed yesterday officially inaugurated the multi-billion-dollar electricity production mega dam on the Blue Nile. The Great Dam was built by Ethiopians, but for its neighbors, despite being opposed by Egypt and Sudan in a wide protest that started in 2011. The Grand Ethiopian Dam is said to be the largest hydroelectric scheme in Africa. France 24 picks up the rest of that story.
With great fanfare, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed inaugurates the start of electricity production at the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Over 10 years after breaking ground, Africa's largest dam and hydroelectric power plant is now operational, standing 145 meters tall and stretching a 1.8-kilometer wide section of the Blue Nile. The project has faced funding difficulties, with taxpayers' money going towards the dam, which is estimated to have cost $4.2 billion. A source of national pride, the dam has sown discord with Egypt and Sudan, two countries downstream of the project which worry about their water supply.
ይኸው እንደምታዩት ኃይል እያመነጨ ቀደም ሲል የሚያደርገውን ተግባር በመፈጸም ወደ ሱዳንና ወደ ግብጽ የሚሄድ እንጂ ለማደናቀፍ የወጣው ጉልበት ጊዜ ገንዘብ ቀርቶ ለልማት በጋራ እንድንቆም በትብብር በጋራ እንድንቆም በታላቅ ትህትና ከአደራ ጭምር ጥሬን ላቀርብላችሁ ፈልጋለሁ።
After announcing that it had fallen below the water poverty line in January, Cairo is demanding that Ethiopia not fill up the dam too fast and regularly threatens military intervention. Last summer, the UN urged diplomatic discussions between the three countries. Those calls, however, didn't stop Ethiopia from pushing ahead with the second phase of filling in July. Abiy Ahmed has promised to sell energy generated at cost price to his neighbors and maintains that the dam will benefit the entire region economically.
And Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi arrived in Qatar on his first visit to a Gulf Arab state on Monday for a major gas summit that will be dominated by tensions over Ukraine. Raisi and Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, a close U.S. ally, are also expected to discuss growing efforts to revive a stalled international deal to regulate Iran's nuclear program. More in this report.
A nuclear deal that is making remarkable progress.
There has been a very remarkable progress in the talks. Of course, the scope and the number of topics have substantially reduced, but the remaining topics are the most difficult and the most serious key topics that must be resolved. One of the most important guarantees we asked for and we are pursuing seriously is the ability to restore our nuclear program.
For Iran, the resurrection of any treaty depends on several key factors like this. On Sunday, legislators in Tehran urged President Ibrahim Raisi to set strict conditions for restoring the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. These conditions center on the United States guaranteeing that they would not withdraw from such a deal again, as they did under the Donald Trump administration in 2018. For their part, the US have said they are willing to return to the deal and ease some of the US sanctions. President Raisi has responded by saying the US should prove its will to lift such sanctions. After months of indirect talks to revive the pact, talks have reached a key point.
I would like to emphasize here that we are ready to achieve a good deal.
The 2015 deal between Iran and major powers limited Iran's enrichment of uranium to make it harder for Tehran to develop material for nuclear weapons, in return for a lifting of international sanctions against Tehran. But when the US withdrew, Iran breached the deal, rebuilding stockpiles of enriched uranium. Since April 2021, 8 rounds of talks have been held in Austria's capital Vienna between Iran and the remaining JCPOA parties, namely Britain, China, France, Russia, and Germany. The United States have only been indirectly involved in the talks to revive the landmark deal.
And elsewhere, U.S. President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed in principle to a summit over Ukraine. The diplomatic window facilitated by the French leader will open discussions and offer a possible path out of the most dangerous European crisis in decades. The office of French President Emmanuel Macron said in a statement that the French leader have pitched to both leaders a summit on security and strategic stability in Europe.
Be a summit between Vladimir Putin and Joe Biden with Emmanuel Macron as go-between. That, says the Elysee Palace, is what the US and Russia have agreed on. However, as shelling in eastern Ukraine continues, the US has said the meeting will only take place if an invasion has not happened. Macron's office and the White House say the substance of the summit will be prepared by the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov when they meet on Thursday. The proposed summit comes as Macron secured a commitment from Russia to intensify diplomatic efforts. However, there was disagreement on who was behind the violence in the Donbass region, where sporadic shelling has intensified. Moscow accuses the Ukrainians, Paris accuses pro-Russian separatists. Putin told Macron that Russian forces would leave Ukraine's northern neighbor Belarus once military exercises there are over. They were due to end on Sunday, but were extended. The United States is pushing for a diplomatic path out of the crisis, all the while saying Russia could invade Ukraine at any moment.
My job as a diplomat is to leave absolutely no stone unturned to see if we can prevent a war. And if there's anything that I can do to do that, I'm going to do it, even if the die is cast, until it's settled. Until we know that the tanks are rolling, the planes are flying, and the aggression has fully begun, we're going to do everything we can to prevent it.
In other diplomatic efforts, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe is this Monday holding an extraordinary meeting of permanent representatives to find ways to de-escalate the situation.
Russia has been accused of waging ground troop proxy war using militants loyal to the Kremlin. A fight between pro-Russian groups and Ukrainian militants may lead to an all-out war if restraint is not avoided, experts say. More in this report.
The war of words in eastern Ukraine could escalate into all-out conflict. Held in the Donbass region, which Russia could use as a pretext to invade. On Saturday, Ukraine's interior minister went to visit the front line between government troops and pro-Russia separatists.
Our soldiers are keeping watch over any movements. After speaking to the troops, I can tell you that the enemy has no chance.
Just minutes later, that confidence was put to the test. Despite a ceasefire in place, the government entourage found themselves in the middle of a shelling. A second round lands just 50 meters away from the interior minister. His security team throws him to the ground, with his bodyguard lying on top of him. He is then whisked away as rounds continue to rain down. An hour later, the experience has had an impact on the minister and brought to the front the struggles of day-to-day life for those in the Donbass region.
Of course, I am a man. I am a civilian. I am not a soldier. I am shocked. And I know that the civilians who live here permanently feel this fear.
This woman lives on the front line. As tensions between Russia and Ukraine and the West have heightened, she is spending increasingly more time in her underground bunker. After weeks of uncertainty, the stress of the situation is taking a toll on her.
I don't have anywhere else to go. Where else can I escape to? Nowhere.
Ukrainian soldiers continue to have a big presence on the ground. Some have been sent to collect projectiles fired by the separatists, who accuse government forces of also shelling. An uptick in bombardments now threatens the fragile ceasefire. Monitors for the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe said that almost 2,000 violations were reported on Saturday alone.
Well, that brings us to the end of the news here on GRTS at 2200 hours, and we'll take a quick look at our top stories once again before we end this edition of the news. President Barrow is set to travel to the Republic of Senegal tomorrow on a day's official visit. Deputies at the National Assembly have today considered the Public Service Pensions Bill and the Information and Communication Amendment Bills, respectively. Expanding Quranic education, Madrasa Babulun Kante in Jara Soma has graduated its first batch of Islamic students since inception in 2017. And in sports, former Arsenal striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has scored a hat-trick for Barcelona against Valencia, becoming the first player this century to fire a treble in La Liga. And in the internationals, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has inaugurated the multi-billion-dollar electricity production dam on the Blue Nile. Well, that's it from me, Fatu Janimbai, on behalf of the entire news team. Many thanks for watching and good night.